96.7 KCAL rocks. It is that time on a Thursday to talk some sports with our guy, Pep. Pep, what's going down?
Yo, let's do this, Patrick. Hey, what a week it is, man. Another big week of NFL football, and here's the crazy part. We knew this was happening because there's been rumors for a while that Aaron Rodgers would return to the Jets despite tearing his Achilles tendon in that first game of the year. So if you do the math, it was like 79 days ago, like 11 weeks. So he has completely defied modern medicine and what science tells us, because think about guys like Kobe Bryant. He's another, elite athlete who tore his Achilles. Yes, he probably moves a lot, more on a basketball court than what a football player would on a football field. Yeah. But it's like a year recovery. How is this guy coming back in like 3 months? And he's already at practice this week, Patrick.
Throwing the ball, it was strange to see him. It is really hard to believe. The only thing where it makes a little bit of sense is it's not his rear plant foot. It is his front foot. But you know how it is in the pocket. You got to be able to move around a little bit. It seems impossible.
It really does. I mean, if you look at some Achilles injuries to elite athletes, some of these guys either never come back, or when they come back, they're never the same. I mean, I think of Kobe as the only guy who I can really think of in recent memory who came back as pretty much the same level. Like, Kobe was relentless as a worker, and rehabbing. But to come back in 3 months to play football, like, it's just unbelievable. So I know, he's at practice this week, but when will we actually see him in a game? And the Jets are 4-7 right now. So, they're a long shot to even make the playoffs.
Should he be doing this? I feel like he should shut it down and make an actual run next year, maybe work on that O-line a little bit. Because let's not forget, that O-line, not very good, Aaron.
No, that's the thing. You need to be mobile. You need to be able to move around and get away from that pressure. I don't know, man. I'm not a medical guy. That's not my background. I have no idea how this can happen, but it's happening. He's actually at practice doing football, related activities, and we're probably going to see him sooner than later. And again, the Jets are 4-7. They got the Falcons this week. I don't know if they can salvage their season. I think this season's done. It's a wash, but maybe he's just trying to prove it to everyone else that he can do this and just completely defy what, this procedure would normally tell us what the rehab looks like.
He wants you to believe he has superpowers.
Yeah, he went in that dark room and was inspired or something. I don't know.
Ayahuasca or whatever.
The ayahuasca. Yeah, that's right. Well, Patrick, you know this. Huge game tonight on Thursday Night Foosball. Seahawks, Cowboys, big-time game in the NFC. And a lot of people, man, they're on that Cowboy bandwagon right now saying, well, they might be the best team in the NFC. I wouldn't agree with that, but they're probably in the top 2 or 3 or 4 teams right now.
They are playing better than ever, especially Dak Prescott. I mean, when you go by the numbers, he's one of the top quarterbacks, if not the top quarterback in the league right now. One thing that is going in the Cowboys' favor, because you can tell the Seahawks, my Seahawks are kind of misstepping. You know what it is? We're not legit, if you will. It seems like at least this year, the Cowboys pound teams that they're supposed to beat. So if the Cowboys are doing the thing that they have been doing all year, is they tend to throttle the teams that they're supposed to do well against. The Cowboys should win this game with what they have done. CeeDee Lamb emerging as an absolute superstar, Dak playing well. If it's going according to plan, they should pound the Seahawks tonight.
And that's the thing. Dallas beats the teams they should beat, but if they go up against another, it's a long football season, but remember when they went up against San Francisco and the Niners drilled them by 30? But maybe this is a different Dallas team as we get deeper into the season. It's hard to say, but, Seattle is one of the better teams in the NFC, so I don't know. I find this is a real challenge, I guess, for the Cowboys to see if they're actually any good.
Should be a test for the Cowboys. And then let's not forget, next week, it's the Eagles-Cowboys rematch. So then that'll be the real test for most Cowboy fans to find out if them boys are real.
Them boys. And I'm hoping the 49ers are going to beat up the Eagles this week. So, hey, maybe the 49ers and Seahawks will both win this week, and the Cowboys and Eagles will be coming off losses next week when they go head-to-head.
So funny how times have changed. It would have been a done deal back in the day, but now those teams have gotten better.
Yeah, they really have. And real quick on my Niners, because I love to talk about my Niners, but they're playing the Eagles. And remember, the last time they played was the NFC Championship game last year. And Brock Purdy injured his elbow. You know, he had Tommy John, and he couldn't throw the football. Remember, they ran the football every single play. So we really did not get to see a true Niners versus Eagles matchup, and we're finally going to get it this week in that matchup. So a couple of big games, 49ers, Eagles, Seahawks, Cowboys. I mean, that NFC playoff picture, Patrick, is starting to take shape a little bit with what 6 games left now in the regular season.
Right. It does take a while for things to kind of go together, but now these games are really starting to form the landscape. So it's kind of cool because we don't have to wait as long now to see what's going to happen. When this weekend passes, we'll know of a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, big games this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. This game is not big, but I did want to bring it up because the Chargers are playing at the Patriots. And Patrick, listen, we've been longtime football fans. I never thought I'd see the day when Bill Belichick might actually be ran out of New England, but there's rumors swirling out there that, you know, his tenure as the head coach of New England, it might be coming to a close. I mean, they're really bad this year.
I know. Wouldn't that be so surprising? It's just hard to fathom, right? A coach that has done so well for so long. However, it can't last forever. You know, at some point, he's got to hang it up. But, you know, is it up to Bill? Is it up to Mr. Kraft? I think we're going to find out.
You know, and here's the weird thing, too, and I heard this the other day, and I haven't dug through the Bill Belichick contract or anything, but the Patriots actually signed him to an extension. So if they wanted to, they could actually trade Bill Belichick to another team so they'd actually get something in return for their coach. So, I mean, think about it. There's going to be an NFL team out there to be like, dude, Bill Belichick? I mean, maybe it's the Chargers. Maybe it's the Bears. I don't know. Someone's going to want him.
I think you could definitely see it because even if you go way back to one of the greatest coaches ever, Lombardi ended up in Washington coaching the Commanders. They were called the Redskins back in that day. And it didn't go as well. He had his health problems at that point. But it seems like these coaches, this is what they do. I could see him with another team.
I could too. I feel like he'd probably not. He'd have a hard time giving it up, right? Coach is coach, and it's hard to turn that switch off. I feel like he still wants to coach, but in New England, they might say, "Hey, it was maybe the greatest run ever, right? The best dynasty in NFL history." But dude, it's run its course, man. They are really bad right now. So just something to keep an eye on. The Patriots are bad, and maybe Bill Belichick will be moving on at some point.
Yeah.
So let's talk some college football. Big, huge weekend, dude. I cannot wait for these college football conference championship games and the Power 5 conferences. Let's start with the Pac-12. We got Washington against Oregon, the rematch. The winner of that one basically cements their spot in the college football, you know, the playoff, the national semifinals. But Patrick, you got to look at all the other games. You know, Michigan versus Iowa. The Wolverines seem like a slam dunk in the Big Ten, but Georgia versus Alabama in the SEC. Texas is taking on Okie State in the Big 12. Florida State and Louisville in the ACC. There's probably 7 or 8 teams that could still make the college football playoff, which I guess makes it a lot of fun going into the final weekend.
Now, it looks like the committee is really picking the teams that are undefeated to keep them in the top 4. What I would love, because I just love a little chaos, is if these teams who are undefeated, if they were to lose, it would just cause total turmoil in terms of who to put in those championship games. I think it would be great. Going to our Pac-12 game, everyone is picking Oregon. Yeah. So my goodness, they really think Oregon is going to strike back here. A lot of people feel like Oregon should have won that game against Washington earlier. We'll see if that happens. The only thing good going for UW is no one thinks they can win, even though they're ranked like number 3.
Yeah, it's bizarre, right? Everyone is on that Oregon train right now. But if Georgia wins out, but Georgia's got to play Alabama in the SEC championship game. If Georgia wins out, Michigan wins out, Washington wins out, those 3 are all in. Florida State, I think, is going to have a hard time with Louisville in the ACC. If Florida wins out, they'll probably put the Seminoles in. But if they lose, who's that 4th team Like, Texas will be the Big 12 champion if they beat Oklahoma State. Do you put Texas in? Texas beat Alabama earlier this year. Or what if Alabama beats Georgia? Do you put Alabama? I mean, dude, there's so many different scenarios with about 7 or 8 teams right now.
I love it, and I do think that actually this chaos may be solved next year when they do expand it to 12 teams. So they'll be able to put all these teams in the mix so they all have a shot for the championship, which I think makes sense. I actually think they're doing a pretty good job for what they have this year, but they will expand it to 12 teams next year, which will include all these teams who at least think they have a shot.
Yeah, think about it. Like, what if Alabama finishes like number 8, number 9, number 10 in the nation? Wouldn't you want to see like an Alabama versus who would be like number 3? Washington?
Yeah.
Like, that could be a playoff game. Washington versus Alabama, in the first round of the 12-team playoff. Like, that would be amazing.
And I mean, our whole lives, we've always wondered about what would happen in those games next year. We may actually be able to see it. So we won't have to wonder what would have happened. I mean, you and I grew up in the time when there was a co-national champion.
Yes.
And they did, and we just can't have that anymore, Pep. I think it's kind of cool they're finally going to expand it. And then people can argue about the 13th or the 14th team, kind of like the NCAA tournament in basketball. When people want to whine about the 65th or the 66th best team, you guys can argue about that all day long.
Yeah, it would be a little taste of March Madness. I don't know how many upsets we necessarily have in a 12-team playoff, but there could be, and that's why they'll decide it on the field.
December madness will come out of this, Pep. I can't wait to see what happens. We'll catch up with Mr. Pep on Monday because a lot's going to be different. Pep, tell me how to get your stuff.
Dude, I am going to feast on another big weekend of football. In the meantime, you can check it out on Inland Sports. That's Inland Sports Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Inland Sports on the YouTube channel. That's Inland Sports.
Thanks, Pep.